Ever since launching its attack on Ukraine in 2022, Russia has been hit with heavy Western sanctions against its banks and its vital energy sector. Its maritime trade, which the majority travels through NATO-controlled waters, has also been severely affected. But Moscow is now looking to lessen risks at sea with new trade routes it's planning to launch between Europe and Asia. This also comes at a time when turmoil in the Middle East is disrupting global trade. The shipping and rail networks could link the European part of Russia to India via Iran, while also bringing it closer to its main trade partners in the Asia-Pacific. While Moscow says it's ready to invest more than $25 billion to modernize the international north-south transportation corridor, it also wants to upgrade facilities on its Arctic shoreline to make the Northern Sea route more attractive. Last year, the Kremlin also issued a $1.4 billion loan to Iran as a way to expand a rail link, which will allow its cargo supplies from St. Petersburg to reach the Gulf. Reports say the routes could cut at least 30% of transit times compared to traveling via the Suez Canal, which has been plagued by Houthi rebel attacks in the Red Sea. And to discuss the alternative trade routes Russia plans to use towards Asia, joining me now from Shanghai is Xin Zhang. He is an associate professor at East China Normal University. And from Istanbul, Ali Ahmadi. He is an executive fellow at Geneva Center for Security Policy. Gentlemen, welcome to Straight Talk. It's good to have you on the program. So, Xin, India and Russia plan to open a long-awaited, multifaceted transportation corridor via Iran, as Moscow also wants to upgrade facilities on its Arctic shoreline to render its Northern Sea route more effective. So what do you make of these projects? I mean, how much of a game changer would they be if materialized?
For Russia, these plans are not a new plan. It has been planned for quite some time, at least as early as late 1990s and early 2000s. So if these plans are to be materialized in the near future, it's going to be a big change for not only for Russia, but for the whole Europe-Asia trade route from east to the west and from north to the south. Given Russia's current geopolitical situation, it's difficult it's having with particularly this traditional trading partner in Europe, in North America. Those new trade routes, if successfully implemented, would be a big breakthrough for Russia to open up its multiple new trading routes, and also a breakthrough in break out the trade sanctions by Western countries, and also fully implementing so-called multilateral foreign policy on a grandiose scale.
So, Ali, what do you make of it? I mean, what would they mean for the global trade, and what's the main idea behind Russia launching, maybe, or relaunching these projects?
Well, generally, when countries come under sanctions, they try to redirect their trade towards countries that would not acknowledge those sanctions or abide by them. So it's not entirely surprising to see Russia going in the direction of expanding its trade with countries like China, with Iran, with India. These projects altogether would be a significant boon to inter-regional trade across Asia. They are quite important. There are, of course, different aspects of this. The business communities in these countries need to get more integrated. There needs to be more de-dollarization in their trade in order for sanctioned trade to happen. And their trade coordination, their policies need to also be coordinated. So it's a long-term project, and the infrastructure to actually transport goods is a critical part of that.
So I just want to bring up a map to show where exactly these trade routes will go. So there are two main transport routes towards Asia. The international north-south transport corridor passes through the Caspian Sea, through Iran, before ending up in the Gulf. The Northern Sea route goes through the Arctic to reach Asia. Both are visibly shorter than the traditional path via the Suez Canal and other NATO-controlled choke points. So if realized, these new routes will cut weeks of maritime travel between Russia and its Asian trade partners. So the Xin question is, both routes would need significant investments, especially when it comes to Iran's outdated infrastructure. How viable is Moscow's plan to increase spending on these routes?
Yes, I think the Russian government has made some recent commitment for enhanced investment in promoting these two new trading routes, including investment specifically to finalize some of the major missing segments in the railway infrastructure building on the north-south trading corridor. But I think the investment is still on the books so far. We've seen some commitment to investment. Whether these monies will finally flow to the planned building of infrastructure is still a question. And also, I think even for the beyond the finalized railway project between Iran and Russia in plan, I think there's still other segments in the trading routes that needs still substantial investment, not only in building railways, but also, as the other guest mentioned, also investment to unifying the trading rules and also other facilities beyond the very basic infrastructure level. And the same thing goes for the Northern Sea Route. That also still require substantial investment and also coordination, not only from Russia itself, but coordination between Russia and other international partners that may potentially get involved. So that's a long shot.
So, Ali, this route will allow Russia to have access to India and other destinations like Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Pakistan, and beyond through the Iranian ports on the Gulf. Have any of these countries shown interest in these projects so far?
Well, in terms of bringing their own investment to the table, not particularly, but they are using these links. Russia delivered its first cargo via Iran to Saudi Arabia a few weeks ago. This seems to be an opportunity for Russia not just to trade with India, but with other countries. In terms of the links that still need to be completed, there's still a significant amount of investment that needs to be made in Iran's port and rail infrastructure, which is Iran's fiscal situation has stabilized. It's committed to working on about 400,000 kilometers, improving the rail there. But there's still critical pieces in northern Iran connecting Tehran to connecting Rasht to Astara near Azerbaijan that are going to be critical to making this network complete. Right now, a lot of it is going through the Caspian Sea, which is much less efficient because of the offloading and onloading onto ships and the limited capacity that is required there.
So, Shin, what do you think? Does India, by joining this project, risk facing the U.S. sanctions?
There was some concern that India's possible collaboration with Russia on similar projects might fall into the scope of a sanction by U.S. and some other Western countries. So far, there doesn't seem to be any warning message from the U.S. and some of the other Western countries, and India seemed to also show some serious interest to materialize this project. So at this moment, the potential sanction for this particular project doesn't seem to be a big concern for India. But we'll see if the project is going to be materialized to some extent, and if the redirected trading routes does open possibility for Russia, maybe even Iran, to get around some of the sanctions levied by U.S. and Western countries.
Yes.
Maybe secondary sanctions might be also imposed on India too.
So another ambitious trade route Russia wants to revive is the Northern Sea Route. Russian President Vladimir Putin said the development of this most important transport corridor will help Russia more fully unlock its export potential and establish efficient logistics routes, including to Southeast Asia. So, Ali, when it comes to Russia's trade with Asia, how much demand will there be for this route compared to the past?
Well, there isn't necessarily a lot of economic contact between Russia and Southeast Asia right now. There are some relationships. A lot of them are based on military exports in the past. But as Russia looks more towards the east, it's important to have this infrastructure online. And since the infrastructure takes a very long time to build, you're talking about long-term projects that can last 5, 7, 10 years. It's important to make those investments right now, acknowledging that the shift in the Russian economy towards the east is now permanent, because the sanctions that have been imposed from the West are not necessarily going away, even if there is some sort of resolution to the Ukraine crisis. It just seems like the Western sanctions are going to be on Russia for the long term.
So, Shin, has the Arctic region already become a focal point of global geopolitics? And is the shrinking of ice sheets, Arctic ice sheets, making this project more viable?
The shrinking of the ice sheet does make this project, this trading route, potential commercially viable, even though the existing experiments, trading experiments along that road is of very limited scale. So it will take some time to make it commercially viable. And then on a larger scale, I would say yes, Arctic now seem to be the so-called last frontier on the global level geopolitical map. And Russia is, of course, one of the key players in that game. So any potential buildup of new infrastructures or opening up commercially viable trading routes will be part of this geopolitical competition on the global level, not only for Russia, also for the region itself.
So, Ali, if materialized, what kind of an economic impact would these trade routes have on European economies? I mean, what options do they have to counter these projects?
Well, the way we counter these projects is there's basically two particular means. One is through export controls. A lot of these projects are extremely complicated from a technical standpoint and have traditionally involved a fair amount of European involvement and the export of key European products, electronic products, technological products that are important to make these ports functional. And the rest is just an issue of imposing more pressure on the Russian economy and its links to the world that might create some financial viability problems for the Russian economy and the trade routes that it's trying to establish.
All right, gentlemen, unfortunately, we'll have to leave it here. Thank you very much for joining me on Straight Talk.